p.m. And we'll start off with the territorial land acknowledgement. Before I begin our meeting, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge that the township of Allen-McAlderman is located on the Mississaugan-Ashanindic territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississaugan-Ashanindic. The township of Allen-McAlderman respectively acknowledge that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and the integrity for generations to come. Item 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof.
It has to do with agenda item number 7. It has to do with finances for the library. And the reason being is litigation. Thank you.
Further declarations of interest? Seeing none. Approval of the agenda as circulated. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council session of Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 be approved. And there is a change to it. The delegation from Jacob Hannon, Municipal Program Coordinator for Food Cycle Rewaste, is not going to be here tonight. So can I get a mover and a second to that agenda amended? Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Further discussion? All in favor? Carried. We're going to move on to human resources, and we have a report from Aaron Andrus, Payroll and Human Resources Coordinator, dated June 20th, 2023, regarding compressed work week policy. Go ahead, Aaron.
As you are aware, there has been some recruitment going on, and through the recruitment process, it has been known that other municipalities are offering compressed work weeks, flex work time, telecommute items. At this time, I'd like to bring forth the compressed work week as a trial for Allen-McAlderman. It would be based out of the office here. As you read in the report, I've done significant research on different types of compressed work weeks for the different municipalities. The one that I chose to go with, and I'm hoping that you will agree, is best suited for us as a small municipality. It also is the same one that the County of Northumberland uses. It allows people to work 9 days out of the 10 days instead of an even more compressed work week. That would be 5 days work 4, which currently the Public Works is doing and has been doing for years. The reason I bring this forward is after COVID, a lot of municipalities felt that this was a way for work-life balance for all employees. It also will still keep the office open 5 days a week, the 9 to 4:30, which are core hours, which would allow the employees to still maintain their work week and work hours and do it with a little bit more balance to their outside life as well. Oh, I could have been.
Just watching Aaron, she's kind of, she's wild with that fishing pole.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. So I bring forth this report as a trial base. It would finish just before our Christmas holidays. And what it would allow is pretty much right now would be the finance department and the clerk's department to be able to participate. there has been discussions with both managers, knowing that in busier times that employees may have to shift their compressed work week, knowing that there are items that have to be completed at different times. And that it would finish before Christmas holidays, again, because of different items going on at Christmas. So is there any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. I'll read the resolution and then there could be some questions. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of Elmwood Haldeman acknowledge the receipt of this report regarding a proposed compressed work week trial policy submitted by Aaron Andrus, PCP, VA Honors, DIPMA, and dated June the 20th, 2023. And further, the council support the compressed work week on a 6-month trial basis with a July 2023 to December 2023. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Councillor Booth. Are there any questions or comments to? Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Through the Mayor Logo. Aaron, I mean, I like the idea. I've done it myself. So it's a great idea for employees to for that work balance and getting time away from work. But a couple of questions that I had was you talk about the makeup time going back to the regular 35 hours. So can the employee opt out of the makeup time? And if they don't, would there be any time that they might be working alone?
When you say opt out of the makeup time, like that they would not do the extra 0.75 hours a day? No.
No, just for like, say if they, absenteeism, say they were late or they had to go somewhere. But it talks about any makeup time going back to the regular 35 hours.
So as it reads, over the 2 weeks, they still have to maintain their 70 hours. So if one day maybe they do have an appointment, as it's listed in the policy, they can work a half an hour before, start at 8:30, they can come in at 8:15, work that extra 45 minutes and finish at 4:30. What I would like to see, and the managers agree, is that once they pick something, they would like it to be stuck with, but of course, there will be extenuating circumstances that maybe they have an appointment. So maybe instead of coming in at the 8:30, that's why in the report, I did list that the core hours would be from 9 to 4:30. So that is when we are open to the public. So whether they make up the 45 minutes before, or after, those can be changed if needed, but it would be prior approval by the managers.
So the office hours are going to stay the same, kind of just different. Some employees will be working this compressed shift.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. So the office will still be open 5 days a week, 9 to 4:30. Some people that choose to do this, it could be somebody picks the first Monday of the 2 weeks, they would be off. They would work their 35 hours between the next 9 days. Then another person could be off the second Friday, and then that schedule would kind of stay unless again, it's a busy season, like in finance, it's taxes, then tax due date, then we know they probably would go back. Same with statutory holidays would be still at 7 hours, so they would still have to make up that extra 15 minutes to continue to have that extra day.
okay. Thanks.
Further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Through you, your worship. So Aaron, I think it's a great idea. The only thing I'd like to see is in your Q&A there, it says, how do they opt out of the program? I'd like to see after the trial too, that the township has the option of opting out of it too, because if this program's successful and somebody's working it for 3-4 years, and then all of a sudden something changes at the township and the township wants to revert back to the regular hours, I want to make sure that we're, somebody saying, oh, you can't do that.
That's an excellent idea, and I would be more than willing to add that to the policy to state that the township has the right to back out of it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
To you, Marilyn. Well, I just had a kind of should know in my head, but So it's two departments that would be in this building that would be in if we choose. So would that be two people like in treasury or, and I'm just wondering, logistically, you said that you will have all the bases covered, unless that there will be, I guess, the big thing is customer service, make sure that if somebody comes in, that there's somebody that would be available to talk.
Correct. So right now we have a full-time position that will be filled starting July 4th. So that will be 2 full-time positions in finance at the front, as well as our part-time customer service. So with the part-time customer service, it has been known that when or if the 2 finance choose to be part of the program, that we do have that customer service person to back up as well, so that we can call in and say if they're gonna have Mondays, maybe she comes in Monday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Friday. So we do have that option that we should always have 2 people at the front at all times.
I just have one question, Aaron, and it was regarding, you mentioned the clerks and the finance. The build and the planning are not included in this as of yet.
I did not include them as of right now, because we are in the recruitment process, of course, of 2 major positions right now, which only leaves our assistant in the office full-time. I believe once these 2 positions are filled, that would be an option for all 3 of them. But at this time, because we do not have them filled, I did not include them in the trial.
Okay.
But again, they can opt in at any time and opt out. So
Thank you. Go ahead, Greg.
I guess just touching base on what the deputy mayor said. So could you explain to me if you had, how many would be downstairs in the office? If somebody's off on a Friday, because that's their time off, and you also have somebody off on vacation that week, how does that affect the staffing for that Friday? Are they going to be short then?
not necessarily. You do have the treasurer as a backup as well to the front, and of course, my position as well is a backup too. So at all times, the front counter will be covered between.
Okay,
No.
so obviously the manager or whatever will okay vacation based on knowing that somebody could be off on that Friday then.
Correct.
Okay.
So then again, it just comes back to being able to manage and make sure if there are maybe 2 people on vacation, that the compressed person does not get their day off that week because of circumstances, and that is part of the policy that they need to understand. It will go back to regular hours.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one more quick comment. And Pat and I were talking about this. I think it's important that we encourage people to try and set appointments if they're coming in to see staff. And that really goes with council too. I think it's a good idea for council, if you have to meet with staff, to try and call ahead, make sure that they're available, saves them time, and probably save yourself some time as well. Further comments? All in favor? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Next, we have 6.2. It's a request for a delegation from Cindy Stone. Cindy here? Hello, Cindy.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank
You
you.
realize you have 10 minutes for your presentation?
I realize.
Pardon me?
I do realize,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. Anytime you're ready, Cindy.
Okay, Mayor Logal, Deputy Mayor Stover, Councilors Ainsworth, Booth, and O'Neill. Thank you for letting me speak today. And Pat Kemp and Yolanda Melbourne, Clerk and Deputy Clerk. My sister and I ran an STR born out of a desire to share the beauty of our 1856 farmhouse property in Grafton, along with the hope of making a little extra to hire an arborist or things like that. We no longer host an STR through Airbnb or any other platform or any other way. The $750 fee and the application process was in no way aligned with what we were making or the effort that it took. But I am here not to speak for myself, but to speak on behalf of those who are or will be forced out of the small pool of STR providers who rent a room or two, or who will be forced to run more people through their homes to justify the cost and application demands. I am here for the single mother, the retiree, the widow, the couple whose children have left the nest, anyone who wants or needs to make a few extra dollars hosting visitors in our township. The perception that STRs make a lot of money is unfounded. I think it's been made clear by other speakers here over the past few weeks that there are distinctions to be made among owner-occupied, owner-unoccupied, and those that make STR a full-time business. The truth is most owner-occupied STRs are occasional and make a little bit of money that for many is very much needed. Like the woman who called me before I left for tonight, and with an impassioned plea told me that her life is going to be changed. She'll have to sell her house during a bad market. There are other people who contacted me by email today saying that their lives are changing, their dreams and plans will have to change because of this. And they made this plea, which I have to say emotionally got me going because their lives are being changed. And these are our neighbors, our people, and I hope that we can take care of them. I have thought a great deal about the people who have presented so clearly about STRs in the past weeks. Their amazing ideas, concerns, frustrations, wants, needs, and potential solutions for rethinking how to solve the issues. I wondered what I could bring tonight that might make a difference. I am a psychotherapist, and I'm part of the World Cafe, a group of professionals who work with villages, communities, governments of all sizes, third world and first world, and organizations worldwide. I have done sustainable development in remote villages in Nicaragua, where health, water, planning, and education issues were intricate. I hold space for conversations, visioning, ideas, conflicts, and solutions to emerge. I am a process person, and it led me to think about a recent trip to Ottawa, where I was invited to a private parliamentary reception honoring and celebrating those who had significantly participated in the multi-party, multifaceted Good Friday Agreement of Northern Ireland, now in its 25th year. General de Chastelain was instrumental in the decommissioning of the paramilitaries, and he said in his speech, as long as there is the Good Friday Agreement, there is hope in the world for all conflicts. The situation in Northern Ireland reminded me how seemingly impossible situations become absolutely possible with an energized community and some meaningful conversation. My dear friend and colleague, Professor Clifford Shearing, at the time head of the Criminology and Governance Department of the University of Toronto, was instrumental in restructuring the RUC into the Police Service of Northern Ireland. Service, not force. Clifford, born and raised in South Africa, also restructured the South African police force after apartheid. From these experiences, I learned that buy-in from the community is essential. It was the energy of the individual communities in Northern Ireland that made change possible and became a blueprint for the rest of the world in how to manage small regulatory community issues alongside huge violent conflict. Their regulatory issues are not unlike our own: how to manage a budding tourist interest, creating sustainable economies, managing growth, gender disparity, growing diversity in communities, and how to keep people and properties safe and respected. Community engagement, inspiration, and energy is needed for any regulatory issue. And look around. We have amazing people. We have an incredibly engaged community of super bright people. These are people who really care and have already raised great questions, researched and generated ideas, and created great solutions. At the heart of it all, I believe that the STR owner-operated hosts and their supporters aren't any different from those who fear STRs, like Mr. Penny on the shoreland, who had his property disrespected by a nearby STR visitor who refused to leave his beachfront. Like that, I wasn't happy when I found a hunting blind and a trail cam and evidence of deer baiting on the far eastern section of my woodlands. I trotted out the no hunting, no trespassing signs, found and contacted the young man, and we had a conversation. Or when everyone had their mailboxes smashed, or trash thrown out car windows into our ditches, or nails found on our roads. We all want our properties safe and respected. The question is, how do we do it without alienating some and unintentionally punishing others who probably most need our support? And we can't allow obstacles to come in the way of positive change. Northern Ireland communities did it against all odds. What wasn't working was rescinded, rethought, re-examined, imagined differently in ways that can work for everyone and doesn't force those who need help out of yet another possible way to make an end or two meet. This may be a small issue, but it has huge ripple effects. Let's not let some zoning issues or any other obstacles stand in the way of effective governance through effective and efficient bylaws that are legal, enforceable, accountable, balanced, and fair. We all want our beautiful township to stay that way, to be safe and our properties respected. The question is, what is the best way to do that? Airbnb has a brilliant way that's effective, powerful, and invisible. STR owners get to score their visitors, and visitors get to score their hosts. The enforcement is simple. Airbnb investigates problems, bans bad visitors, and stops bad hosts. Our township is at a wonderful new crossroads where Prince Edward County's marketing has opened up this part of Ontario. Alnwick-Haldman can benefit from that exposure and plan for it. First, by doing what needs to be done to get the unenforceable and ineffective bylaws rescinded. If that is challenging, I'm certain there are some very talented people here with special skills that will lend their efforts to this end. These bylaws weren't even created by this council, noting that most of those involved in the creation of those bylaws were not voted in this term. I think that tells us something. We can explore the best ways to open up tourism in this township in the way that reflects the values of this township, the ways that will allow this township to flourish. We have a history of being inviting. There were small visitor bungalows and rooms to rent on many properties years ago that welcomed travelers. We need to rethink the best ways to register owner-operated STRs and make it attractive to be a host to the visitors of our township. STR owners can make a declaration to keep their properties in compliance. We need to recognize the ripple effect of any one part and how it affects the whole. We have the opportunity to envision our future and keep this amazing community mobilized and motivated. Most of the STR operators, business people, small entrepreneurs, professionals, tradesmen, tradeswomen, and people of this township want the very, very best for here and for each other. Let's lean into that to guide our choices and decisions. It takes a village to run a village, and we have a great one.
Thank you, Cindy. Next, we have a delegation from Janet Sullivan and John Ling. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a resident. As a community member, looking at the ongoing delegations related to the short-term rental issue, I hear that many people share concerns and frustrations related to enforcement. The plan that eventually gets recommended and the bylaw that is enacted must be enforceable, and the community must have confidence that the enforcement will happen. Right now, I don't have that confidence. This is based on my own experience. When the previous council voted to prohibit STRs on May 19th, 2022, we were surprised, but also relieved, as the family cottage beside our house had gone up for sale in the fall of 2021 and was purchased by a group of investors who intended to operate a short-term rental. The cottage was not operating as an STR before the bylaw was enacted, and my husband sent an email to the township on May 24th, 2022, informing them. Mr. Gourd did come out and, as I understand it, educated them. The short-term rental operated during the summer, and it wasn't until it went up for sale on or about May 15th, 2023, that we knew that it wasn't licensed, as the real estate ad said STR licensing in process. So here's an opportunity to prevent buyers from unknowingly purchasing a property that they think can be a short-term rental when it's illegal. I filled in an online complaint stating, I don't believe this property should be deemed to have been operating prior to May 19th, 2022, the date bylaw 70/2022 took effect, as there were no guests there until after that date. Furthermore, since the real estate listing states the legal STR licensing is in process, that would mean they operated last summer illegally without a license. And that should not be considered as operational, as it did not meet the township requirements. On May 16th, I received a reply from Mr. Gourd thanking me for the complaint and stating we will investigate this STR and see where it is in the process. I followed up with an email on May 26th, asking how the investigation was going and whether he would let me know the results of the investigation and the actions he took. On May 29th, I received the response, "Good afternoon, Janet. I can tell you the investigation is ongoing into this property. Thanks." So this building isn't that big. The paperwork must be here somewhere. There's a valid bylaw. There is no license, yet there seems to be a decision to not stop the continuing operation of the short-term rental. This is where I think accountability comes in. Who decides what bylaws will be enforced? Who decides, let's just delay responding and see what happens with the new bylaw? Is that what's happening here? The direction should be transparent, because this is what leads to frustration and lack of confidence in the township staff to do their jobs. Education. When the action taken is education, then I believe there must be follow-up. This is for any bylaw things, not just short-term rentals. You just can't tell an operator something, walk away and consider it job done. Real education means actually ensuring the information given was acted upon. Complaints. It was suggested on June 6th in Mayor Logo's thoughts to consider that there be service fees for STR owners or neighbors who call out requesting attendance by a bylaw officer for enforcement of established bylaws for nuisance issues such as parking, noise, waste and recycling, animals, and fireworks, using existing bylaws to take effect upon council approval. And there would be service fees for those type of things. This is outrageous. It leads me to believe there is no intent to enforce bylaws, rather punish the neighbors or deter them from making complaints. The system should be set up to not pit neighbor against neighbor. For the record, we made 0 complaints about the Airbnb next to us last summer. The guests were lovely. I see on today's agenda that the notice of motion does not include this wording. However, that does not change the fact that it was suggested. Availability of cottage rentals. We heard from several delegations about lack of rentals, how it is negatively impacting the business community, how we need tourism to thrive. I would like to say that in the north end of Alnwick-Haldeman along Rice Lake, there are many cottage resorts that have been in business for many years. To give you an idea, on my morning walks, I walk by Sandy Bay Cottages, Twin Cedars, Sunset Retreat Cottages and Family Campground, Osprey Cottages, Lang's Resort, Springbank Cottages, and Willowwood Camp. There are, of course, many more. These are the ones that are just in walking vicinity of my house. These are legitimate businesses that bring families, fisher people, and others to our community. Furthermore, in regards to the current licensing fees and the thought that they are too high and would present too much of a hardship, these businesses must pay licensing fees and commercial taxes. In order to be fair, that must be looked into and considered as well. Thank you for considering my comments.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Janet. Okay, we're going to move on to item 7. And it's Treasury Department report from Nicole Leach Bim, treasurer dated June 6, 2023 regarding the March 2023 Q1 financial report.
No, she's in vacation. She's not here today.
Not here, okay,
This was previously circulated.
yes. These minutes were previously circulated. And they were on the schedule for the last meeting, but we didn't get a chance to get it all done, so that's why these are coming up again. So I'll read the resolution and then open it up for questions or comments from council. Be it resolved that the council of the township of Allen McCollum received the report from the treasurer regarding the March 2023 Q1 first or financial reporting. And we're going to look at finance, administration, animal control, building bylaws, cemeteries, community policing, council, emergency measures, environment, fire, heritage, library, parks and rec, planning, police services board, public works, rec and culture and water. So can I get a mover and a second to put those on the table? Moved by Deputy Mayor Slover, second by Councillor O'Neill. Any questions? Go ahead, Mary Catherine.
I do have a few. I'm going to start actually with the fire because others may have some questions, and for the benefit of the audience, each of us is a liaison with a certain department. So mine's fire. And there is a couple of discrepancies. The one is the volunteer firefighters' wages, and it looks like they're way over in the wages, but if you look, they're way under in the training. So that has been sorted out. And if you look at the end of April, the stuff that had inappropriately been put in the wages is now into training, and it all is what the budget predicts. And the other was the extra cost for the Grafton Fire Hall. So some of that work was completed last year and the bills came in this year. So there's still some sorting out, and I will leave that to the treasurer to fully explain that, but that is how that came about. Then I think that I can direct these both to our acting CAO. I have a question about the licenses and software, and she did make a note that it hadn't been budgeted for correctly. Do you happen to know how that's going to be sorted out?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Just,
Well, you can look it up.
yeah. We'll get back to you.
okay. And then the last one is just, I was going to make the request, but the recreation, culture and community development, we're to look at them quarterly and just look over those numbers. I was just wondering if it could be sent as a separate package. So if everyone's comfortable, I'll just send that request to the treasurer through you tomorrow, or CC you on that tomorrow. Is that okay?
That's fine. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Through you, your worship, maybe, Mary Catherine, I'm not sure if you can answer this or not because of fire, but under the fire, station number 1, it talks about there was $100,000 allotted for station station number 1 for a roof for a capital expenditure of $100,000, and there's $25,000 spent on that. So am I mistaken? Has the fire chief been spending money out of that capital account on other things, or the permission was given to spend $100,000 on the roof?
That's what I was mentioning about the roof money hasn't been taken yet. That's for that wall that was replaced and those fire doors that were put in, but because that work was completed at the end of 2022, the bill came in 2023.
So was that a capital expense for 2022 then?
Correct. Yes, that was approved in 2022.
Okay, so I guess the fire chief then, according to this, is going to come and explain some of these things, right? There's a lot of expenses here that need to be explained if they're over the $5,000 and stuff like that, that there was 3 quotes and stuff like that.
This would have been approved last year.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about expenses now
for the
because
Roof.
no,
Yeah,
not for the roof, for the there is an expense account in there, and I won't get into it with you. Dave would have to be here. you want to talk
Yeah, I was
about
just
it.
gonna
that-
say, the fire chief will present a report at their July 4th meeting.
Because there's one budget I'm concerned of. It had $10,000 in it and it spent 25,000 already.
That's still the one that's the expenses from 2022.
Okay, but that's not on a capital account. That's in an operations account. That's my issue is $100,000 was given for capital replacement of a roof.
Right, which hasn't been done yet,
Okay.
correct?
Right, so that RFP will be going out tomorrow for the roof, yes.
Okay.
I just reviewed it.
And Dave will be here to answer.
He'll
some
be
of
here on the
those
4th,
questions.
yes.
Okay, so we'll leave it for the fire chief to, there's numerous questions I have about the fire budget. Okay, thank you.
I just had a comment through you, Mayor Logal. It's quite interesting when there's a lot of information here and your eyes are automatically drawn to the green sections. And I feel, I really congratulate the treasurer on these sections. And with these sections, Madam CAO, are you saying the first week in July, the department heads will be coming to explain the overages?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mike, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Logo. Like Councillor Booth, I have many concerns about the report, but I would maybe ask that maybe it'd be just as good to go and sit down with Nicole, because there's probably some stuff here that I just need some education on as how she comes up with some of the numbers. Like, for instance, if I look at the unemployment insurance for the fire department, it's at 92.7% for the first quarter, but yet their wages that are 11.3%. So I don't know how the unemployment or the EI is so much of a difference. So sure, there's a relative answer for it, but those kind of things kind of stick out.
Yep, I think you should ask Nicole. Just as
Yep.
a couple things, she clarified a few things regarding the miscellaneous revenue for me in parks. And which was $82,000 that had to be explained. And also the Public Works office staff for $53,000 was a credit and it was a credit, but it should have been going to a different department. So
Mhm.
just cleaning those couple things up. I also asked about the Public Works sand and gravel
Mhm.
removal. I haven't got a response yet back from them, but I expect that will come up on the 4th.
Yes.
And one concern I did have was the council and overspending for special meetings. We've had an awful lot of special meetings and I know we're at least half the budget or maybe even more than half, almost 3/4 of it, and we're only halfway through the month. There's some good explanations. We had to train, we spent an awful lot of time on the budget as compared to what we had put in for the timing for the budget, as well as the replacement of the CAO and the interviews, et cetera, which explains some of it. But do you have any comments back?
I was just gonna say, we had 39 meetings since January 1st. Typically, council would have 18. So you have been very busy with special meetings and some of them are to do with, as you mentioned, council recruitment. Some of them are to do with budgeting. We also had some training on the Safe Drinking Water Act. So there has been a number of additional meetings and that's why there would be an overreach.
Thank you. And you're probably busier. The more meetings we have, the busier you are as well.
Both Yolanda,
You and
yes.
Amanda, so,
And that doesn't include the short-term rental meetings or the water committee meetings.
okay,
Mayor Logal.
yes,
Oh, do you have more questions? I just had a couple, sorry.
I don't think so.
Okay, you bring up a good point. Where would those meetings go in?
So they would be allocated to their respective budgets.
Okay.
So there's only 2 members of the 5 members of council that sit on the water committee. And there was only 2 members of council that sat on the short-term rental.
Okay. And just one more question. Is it typical for a new council to have this many? I guess taking away the extra meetings we had with the CAO with that job. but usually a first-time council would have more meetings.
Well, you had more budget meetings than what we typically would have. And part of that is because you are a new council and there was a lot of questions that were asked during the process. And I would expect next year when we do the budget, because council's more familiar with it, we won't be having as many meetings. There was a lot of training, but that was done in 2022 because when we bring new council members on, we want to make sure that they are trained for the positions that they are taking on. And yeah, so thank you.
Well, the water training was important too, because of the responsibilities that
Under the
each
safe
member
drinking
of,
water.
each member of council takes when they sign up. It's the one job that you can go to jail for. If you have problems with the water system. So that's why we pay extra close attention to that. Okay, so we got to move into seconder. Anybody else have any more further questions or comments on the budget information? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we're moving on to administration and we have a report from Pat Kemp, our acting CAO clerk, dated June 20th, 2023, regarding the Grafton well drilling quotation summary. Go ahead, Pat.
So we asked for proposals for drilling the new well. As council is aware, we were able to secure a grant for $1.7 million. The quotes came in, there were two bidders. One was G Hart and Sons Drilling of $244,671. And the other one was from Aardvark Drilling and it was $288,168. We are recommending the lowest bidder. It has been reviewed by Greer Galloway and also by Bruce Camp from GeoCamp and Grant Parkinson from GM Plan. And the estimate in when we were applying for the grant was $350,000 for the drilling and $25,000 for decommissioning the well 1 and also the treatment well 3. So they're both included in that. And so we are within budget.
Thank you. I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that the council of the township of Allen McCalderman received the report from the acting clerk CAO regarding the Grafton well drilling quotation, and further the council concur that with the recommendation of Greer Galloway to award the work to the lowest bidder, which was G Hart and Sons Well Drilling, in the amount of $244,671 plus HST. Mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Questions, comments to Pat? All in favor? Carried. Item 8.3. Next, we have number 9, which is committee reports. We have the Grafton Communal Water Committee.
Excuse
meeting.
me, Mayor Logal. You've missed 8.2.
Yeah, 8-2.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you,
a
Mayor
biggie.
Caslin. Next, we have a report from Pat Kemp, acting CAO clerk, dated June 20th, 2023, regarding an update on the strategic plan survey.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So Mayor Lowell and members of council, we decided to embark on a strategic planning exercise. And on April the 18th, council approved that exercise. And on the 21st, we distributed questionnaires. So some of those questionnaires were distributed through Bang the Table, social media, and then hard copies were distributed to our local libraries and community centers. As part of that review, we also did a SWOT analysis and increased pressures to undertaken on May the 2nd. And a questionnaire was due on the 24th of May. And I just like to give special recognition to Jennifer Steen and Nicole for the work that they did on assisting me with the questionnaires. So in your package, you have Excel spreadsheet that Nicole has prepared for me. And I just wanted to do a little bit of a synopsis for you. So we only had 73 replies come back in electronically and 5 paper copies. So out of the 73 responses, 43 people heard about it on social media. Again, 72 were residents of the township. The majority of the respondents were between the ages of 40 and 69. The majority of the respondents were from Grafton. The majority of the respondents lived in the township for more than 21 years. And then when they were asked to pick their number one choices, the first one was Natural Beauty, Rice Lake, Lake Ontario, Rolling Hills Farmland, and 35 out of 73 respondents. We also had, they were allowed to pick up to 3. So second choice was also the same thing, Natural Beauty. And then the third choice was Sense of Community. And then number 7 was, what does the township do well? So 20 out of 73 said the road maintenance. And again, their second choice was road maintenance, 9 out of 73. And then waterfront parks and halls, 9 out of 73. Question 8 was, what could the township do better? And it was infrastructure replacement, 13 of the 73 respondents. Choice 2 was, what could the township do better? Was bylaw enforcement, 12 out of 73. And again, choice 3 was the same, bylaw enforcement, 11 out of the 73. And then out of what could the township do better? Choice number 4, communication, 14 out of 73. And choice 5 was council resident relations, 16 out of 73. Question 9, what is the greatest issues facing the township in the next 4 years? 20 out of 73 found protecting the environment. Choice 2 is aging infrastructure. So that's roads, bridges, municipal facilities, community water, 17 out of 73. And lack of broadband connectivity, 17 out of 73. Number 3 choice was the greatest issues facing the township in the next 4 years. Urbanization or urban sprawl, 16 out of 73. Question 10, which of the following values do you consider the most important in municipal government? 52 out of 73 said accountability. Number 2 choice was professionalism, and that was 19 out of 73. Number 3 choice was environmental sustainability, 17 out of 73. Number 4 choice was transparency, 33 out of 73. And the 5th choice was integrity, 30 out of 73. And question number 11, what should the primary focus for local economic growth in the township? And 30 out of 73 respondents said cultural enterprise, festival, visual arts, performing arts, museums, archives, and libraries. Number 2 choice was value added agriculture, which is winery, breweries, farmer markets, etc. 28 out of 73. The 3rd choice was value added agriculture, again, the wineries and breweries, 20 out of 73. And question number 12 was, what do you believe are the top priorities for the sound municipal financial management? And 28 out of 73 said annual reviews of departmental business plans and operations. And their second choice was long-term infrastructure replacement plan, 21 out of 73. And number 3 choice was transparency and decision-making process, which was 40 out of 73. So council has decided that at a future meeting that they would hold a public meeting so that the public would have an opportunity to review the surveys that we've received and to let us know what their top priorities is before council makes their final decision on the strategic plan.
Thank you, Pat. First of all, I'll read the motion and then we can debate. Be resolved, the council of the township of Allan McCullum received the report from the acting CAO clerk dated June 20th, 2023 regarding the update on the strategic plan survey, and further that council will establish a date to hold a public meeting to share the results of the survey with the public. Mover and a seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor. Do you have any?
I'm not sure how my math is, but I take it that there's 7,000 residents in the municipality. And we have 1.04% response on the survey. And I'm not saying it's I don't know how we get more people doing surveys, or we do a public meeting, how we get more people involved to have their voice. So that was, it was nice was it 73 plus 5, or was it?
Yeah, so there's 5 that were paper copies.
Paper. So that'd be
73 with
78.
78 in total. yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That was the
Still
only.
1%, no matter how. you-
Well, it doesn't get it was 1.04%, if my math is right, so. I look at, would like to look at ways of, having more input into this, I
think-
guess,
I
in
think I have
the
a-
open house,
Perhaps
public meeting.
I'm interrupting you. and I
No, no,
apologize
yeah,
for
that was
but
my, I
I
really
would like to
appreciate.
comment. I
thoughts.
think this is the first time the township has ever taken a survey, at least that I'm aware of, something like this.
For this.
Yeah,
um,
for strategic plan.
But I believe that there was one done for the,
There were two done, one for when the Sierra Group was here, and the library has done it as well. And they both did actually get more responses than this one.
and I
So-
know even when we did the park at Sandy Bay, we had put out a notice and we had a good reply from the ratepayers on which option they preferred at that time. And that was done through Bang the Table or Let's Talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did we come up with the questions?
So we used an example from another municipality that had just undergone a strategic planning exercise. So
Do you know what the results were and theirs?
I
As far as
don't.
numbers?
no, I don't, sorry.
Any other questions or comments? Mary Catherine?
Just thinking ahead to that meeting, will it sort of be categorized, or how do you envision? Because we've got a lot of sort of raw data here between this and the SWOT analysis, but I'm not sure how that gets pulled in or whatever we want to say.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would envision that we would have charts across, probably hold it at the arena, have charts across the wall so that, or the board, so that people can see what the choices are. And then allow people an opportunity to, maybe there's something that we haven't considered that should be considered. And then show them what the list that council already has done on the SWOT analysis and the increasing and decreasing pressures, and then allow people an opportunity to provide their comment before council makes their final decision.
That's probably a pretty good idea to have it at the arena or some
Yeah,
place.
I'm thinking a large venue so that,
Yeah.
you know,
Would
we can
council attend
accommodate.
that or
I'm
not?
sorry, pardon?
Council would attend or?
Yes,
They would,
Yep.
okay,
yeah,
And
because I
staff.
think it's important for council to hear the input from the public.
absolutely. And when could we do that?
Well, I'm looking for council to give me a date.
Yeah,
We had originally said July 11th. I think that's a little bit soon, but
I know you're committed to a couple other things.
yes, I am.
So, when was another, does ever council ever comment or thought on a date? Mike?
Through you, Mayor Logo, I just kind of wanted to add, I know where it's a busy time, but I wonder if we could hold one in all McCollum at the Civic Center.
Hold 2 sessions.
Yeah,
2 sessions, then that's fine.
Probably not a bad idea. Are we looking at August then or?
We could do 2 sessions in
Yeah.
August, yeah. And
Well,
typically council doesn't meet in
I mean,
August.
we're off in August, right?
Pardon me?
We're off in August. So
Historically, we've had at least one meeting in August, haven't we?
Since I've been here, yes.
Yeah,
okay,
we kind of usually put it together with a planning meeting, so that we hold one meeting entirely in August. Go ahead, Mary Catherine.
When they did the recreation study, we did have it at Centerton, and it was able to hold, and it was a well-attended meeting as public meetings go, and that way we might be able to have one meeting. And
Through your mayor local, I'm wondering, a lot of people are away, really aren't thinking of this sort of thing. Would September be a better time to get people thinking about it and get their input?
I never thought of that, but that's probably a good suggestion. But we could do it early in September because people will be back.
Yep.
You want to take a look at what dates in
Yes.
the first week of September and.
Yep.
And do a survey of the staff or pardon me, the council and see what happens.
I can do that, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You want a motion to do that?
So you have that as part of the motion that you establish a
okay.
date. So if you just give me early September, then we'll go
Yeah,
with that.
early September.
And then we'll publicize what the date is that council decides on.
Thank you. So, all in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we're going to move on to committee reports. We have the Grafton Communal Water Committee minutes of March the 15th. The Recreation, Culture and Community Development Advisory Committee minutes of March 27th. The Short-Term Ad Hoc Committee minutes of April 5th. The Lower Trent Conservation Regular Board meetings of April 13th. The Lower Trent Conservation Regular Board meetings of May 11th. And the Ganaraska Regional Conservation Authority Board of Directors minutes of May 18th, 2023. So I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that the following minutes be received and filed. The Grafton Communal Water Committee minutes, the Recreation, Culture and Community Development Advisory Committee meeting minutes, the Short-Term Rental Ad Hoc Committee minutes, the Lower Trent Conservation Regular Board minutes, the Lower Trent Conservation's second meeting, and finally, the Ganaraska Regional Conservation Authority Board of Directors meeting. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, second by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any questions or comments on those reports? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Just as a side note, through your Mayor Lobo to Madam CAO, have everyone completed the water training?
No, they have not. The committee members have not. They have up to a year to complete it. I've received one certificate so far,
Okay,
but I'll follow up with them. see what
thank
they
you.
have.
And there was how many on the board? 5?
Yes, I think so.
I think so.
I think so. Okay. Any other questions or comments on those reports? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Then we're going to move on to communications, and we have correspondence from various municipalities regarding council resolutions adopted. The first one is from the municipality of North Perth regarding school bus stop arm cameras. The next one is the township of McGarry regarding school bus stop arm cameras. The city of Cambridge regarding the Highway Traffic Act amendments. The city of Cambridge regarding legislation amendments to improve municipal code of conduct and enforcement. The municipality of Shunana regarding Bill 5, Stop Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act, and the township of Evrentroll regarding the Bill 5, Stop Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act. Be resolved that the council of the township of Alma Calderman received this correspondence from various municipalities regarding resolutions adopted, and further, the council direction is required. So when I looked at them, I thought perhaps I would suggest that we receive and file unless there's ones that you want to do something more specific with that. Mary Catherine?
So when we attended the Good Roads Conference, they actually did have one of the sessions where it was everybody present on this school bus stop arm cameras. And they did encourage every municipality to support this, and Councillor Ainsworth might have to jog my memory. It was a while ago. But it was one of those funny things where you've got 2 levels of jurisdiction involved with this. So for it to move forward, the municipalities have to say, yes, we're okay with this moving forward because of just the funny way it falls between the province and municipal. So I would like to see us support that because living on a corner where the buses often had I can think of one fellow who sat there for 25 minutes after he didn't see that stop anyway. Yes, I think it would be good.
Okay. So you want to move that?
I would move that we support the, how do we want to word that? To support the,
Support the
So the
township?
correspond, yeah, so from North Perth in the township of McGarry.
Yeah, and if we
Yes.
send that support to the Minister of Education and
the local school board, I would suggest, is
Yeah,
like school
okay.
boards.
school boards,
Yeah.
okay?
yes, and I would perhaps add our member of parliament and provincial parliament,
Parliament, yeah.
please.
Okay.
Mayor Logo, have we not already sent a letter? Because I remember this coming on my desk or our desk before. Is this different municipalities sending this out? I'm not
We
sure.
had it last meeting. Like we
Yeah.
had to bring some of the correspondence forward.
Oh,
I don't
okay,
think we dealt with it because
Ah.
we deferred it because we ran out of time.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, and it did come that a while back before we'd gone to Good Roads and we said we need to know more. And then we went to Good Roads, we learned more, but this is the next time it's come forward since then.
So Mayor Catherine's gonna move. We have a seconder? You have a second?
Not yet, sorry.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Booth. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carry. The next one was the city of Cambridge regarding Highway Traffic Act amendments. You want to do with that one? Just receive and file?
Through you, Mayor Logo. Well, it's kind of something that we've been talking about also with the speed limits in our own municipalities. And people speeding on narrow roads and stuff, you know, especially with the Rosemead area and down in here and the number 2 right here in the main street of town. I don't know if it's something that we should look into.
Was this the one that was suggesting that they open up the automatic cameras in more than just the regulated zones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one camera that they can move around different
Yeah.
places.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to support that thing? That's what it is. It has to go into the.
Well, Yeah, I'd like to support it, but I think it needs more of a conversation on it.
Okay. So what do you want to do then? Defer it to a different time or?
Yeah, I guess so. If we can bring it back later on and have maybe a better discussion on it.
Okay, would you like staff?
Because I don't, you know, we have to know what all the rules are and what all the laws are with it. And
What do you suggest, Simon?
So yeah, we could defer it and if you want staff to review it and bring
Yeah.
back.
Okay.
We can do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mayor Goff?
And further to that, I'm wondering at the police board, whether there's any discussion of this or if you could perhaps ask if they have any opinion on it.
Yes. We can do that.
Yeah.
Can tell me where to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Next we have.
No, you need a seconder for that motion?
Yeah, we do a seconder. Second by Deputy Mayor Stover, all in favor? Gary? City of Cambridge regarding legislation amendments to improve municipal codes of conduct and enforcement. And I believe the next 2 municipalities were after basically the same thing. Isn't that the same
Yes.
thing? So I assume we want to support that. There, go ahead. Deputy Mayor.
Through your Mayor Logo, just a little side note, I know that we're going to be going over our policies and procedures in this manner, and I didn't have a chance to look at our code of conduct. And kind of, I certainly support this, don't get me wrong, but I think it's up to us as well to look at our code of conduct to see if it is adequate or not. So that's just a caveat, but I certainly support this.
Go ahead, Pat.
And just for council's information, instead of bringing the policy book to you on one day, we're going to start bringing small number of policies forward at every meeting so that you have an opportunity to start proceeding with approving the policies, but you're not going to be inundated with a huge book and fall asleep on me.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Just to clarify, the policy you were referring to, was that for the staff or was that for
Council.
Council has a code of conduct,
the code of conduct?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that fall under this thing or no?
but that's, I think the deputy mayor is suggesting that we look at our code of
Okay.
conduct.
To
in
see where
conjunction
it
with
can
that.
be improved and as well, I mean, I certainly support this, but it just brought me to remembering that that was something on our agenda to look at the package and Madam CAO is on it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So do we move for a second to do anything with this?
If you're going to support the resolutions from the other municipalities, yes,
We have got that support.
you have not have a mover or seconder
I
yet.
don't have a mover and second.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Mary Catherine.
I believe this has already gone before the provincial legislature and not passed. So I'm not sure if there's any point of
Wow.
supporting it now that it's already been voted upon by them.
And not
Go ahead,
passed.
Pat.
So Counselor O'Neill is correct. It has gone before the legislature and it's not passed. I'm not sure if these people are trying to garner up more support in order to have it come back. I'm not sure.
Well, if we really believe that our policies should be looked at and we're supporting this, then I would say we should continue to push the government to react. That's my opinion.
Well, through your mayor local, I'm wondering why the government turned it down.
Pardon me.
I'm wondering why the government didn't support this.
Maybe they'd have to, I shouldn't say, I won't say that. So, do you want to do anything with it or receive and file?
I guess at this point.
Someone's got to make a
receive
motion, huh?
I think it may be with that information, well, I guess I must have missed that, but I guess it would. Is the government thinking the municipality should look after this and that they wouldn't police it? Is that what the thought is?
I don't know.
Ah, no idea.
Well, I
Receive
think
and file.
what they're saying is maybe some of them don't have strong enough policies and they want them stronger, kind of like we were suggesting.
Yeah,
So that elected officials are held accountable.
mhm.
Mary Catherine?
My understanding of the legislation was that it would give the power to actually remove counselors and then they could actually be taken to court and the government chose not to exercise that as a potential option.
Okay, we need a decision. Someone make a motion. What would you like to do? We can either receive and file, or we can ask staff to issue a letter supporting this. Based on the applications made by two other groups. Mary Catherine,
I make a motion to receive and file.
are you a seconder for that? Second by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? Carried.
Excuse me. Mayor Lobo,
Yes.
any chance I can go back to the previous correspondence? There was a question I had that I failed to ask at the appropriate time.
Yep, go ahead.
It's regarding the memorandum of understanding for Lower Trent, and I see the draft that is there. Now, is that before staff yet, or is that something that'll be coming before staff? Like, where are we on that?
So I have a meeting, I believe it's tomorrow with the representative. And they're going to be discussing the memorandum of understanding. So then I would bring it forward to council at our next regular meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that completes the core communications correspondence. We're going to move on to 10.2, which is correspondence from the National Chronic Pain Society dated May 2023 regarding support. Request Government Ontario to maintain OHIP coverage for chronic pain treatments. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of Elmwood-Cullinan received the correspondence from the National Chronic Pain Society regarding support. A request that the Government Ontario maintain OHIP coverage for chronic pain treatments. And further, the council give direction. Mover and seconder. Councillor Ainsworth, moved by Councillor Ainsworth, second by Deputy Mayor Stover. Thoughts, comments? Deputy Mayor?
Well, I think this has been an ongoing issue, so I would support it.
Okay. Seconder, second by Councillor Booth. Comment, Mary Catherine?
Yes, I do actually. Does anybody know anything more about this National Chronic Pain Society? Like, who is this that's asking? It's really my question.
I don't know.
Yeah, I hesitate to do anything not knowing who this group actually is.
If you would like, Mary Catherine, I would take this up with the HKPR
Okay,
It has
That would be
provided
good.
pretty good information on some of the past ones we've looked into. I'd be
Yeah,
happy
that
to do that
sounds-
and report it.
I would
you would-
appreciate that path. I don't know what the other counselors think.
If you want to defer till this one till I get a
They
minute.
have, they have a national. It looks legit. It has a lot here. But that would be a good idea.
No, I don't.
I
I do
can't
remember
remember.
checking, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's something that looked pretty legit and everything else.
Yeah.
It had something to do with
Well,
opioids or something like that, I believe
Mm-hmm.
it was. And you know, the HKPR are pretty popular or feel that's a good exercise, but they could not support this particular one. the
Oh, okay.
information that they had, so, and it was a national thing, I believe.
As well.
Yep. I'm not saying that you compare them or nothing like that, but it's probably a good idea.
Oh,
So
they
can
would
we get a
know.
mover to defer?
Yes.
We got this, we got it.
So you had it on the floor, and
Okay.
part of the motion was that council direction is required. So as part of that motion, then it would be referred to the
To
court
defer
the-
till
to the health team, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yep.
All in favor? Carry. Next, we have a correspondence from Diane Noble on behalf of the Women of Ontario. Say no, and it's regarding a request to call for government legislation to hold municipal elected representatives accountable for violence and harassment in municipal workplaces. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Allen Holden receive and file the correspondence from Diane Noble on behalf of the Women of Ontario, say no, and further direction is required. Mover and seconder,
Well, I'll move to put it
Thank
on the
you.
floor.
thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Discussion, any comments? What would you like to do with it?
File.
Receive and file? Receive and file? Everybody okay with that?
I am.
All in favor? Carry. Next, we have correspondence from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry regarding streamlining of approvals under the Aggregate Resource Act and supporting policy. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Allen McCollum received a correspondence from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry regarding the streamlining of approvals under the Aggregate Resource Act and supporting policy, and further that council give direction. I am mover and second, put it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Booth. Second by Councillor O'Neill, discussion. Pat and I were discussing this, and before we make a decision, she's going to see our new planning people and see what their thoughts on this are.
That's a good idea.
Council's okay with that? Go ahead.
Well, through your worship, I wouldn't support this. It talks about enabling recyclable aggregate to be imported. And according to our bylaw, we don't allow that. You can't import stuff for our fill bylaw, right? So this is completely against things that we've talked about before.
There you go.
Well, I would suggest we still defer and get a report because.
I'm fine with that to look into it more, but I can just read the first one there and it just sounds like the provincial government wants to make it easier for aggregate pits to dump stuff.
That's quite possible, and
I'm sure our planner or somebody will look into it then and come back to us with a report.
Yes, you have moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by
Okay.
Councillor O'Neill.
Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have correspondence from the Roseneath Agriculture Society dated May 23rd, 2023 regarding the sign advertising the carousel season. Be resolved, the Council of the Township of Allen McCollum received a correspondence from the Roseneath Agricultural Society dated May 23rd, 2023 regarding a sign advertising the carousel season, and further that council give direction. Mover and seconder, Moved by Councillor Ainsworth and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Discussion? Go ahead, Councillor.
Through you, Mayor Logo. So, I called the Rose Heath Fair Board and talked to, their vice. And I asked them about the sign, you know, if it falls in line with our bylaws, you know, the size of it, the center of the road. I see the only issue there that it's on public property. And, so she wasn't quite sure if it was, you know, all the dimensions, but I don't know if we know that right now, what the dimensions are. For everything that, does it meet everything other than it's on public property?
I don't know that for sure, but I think it's probably bigger than it's in 16 square feet.
Yeah.
That's 4 by 4, so I think it's bigger than 4 by 4. But I don't know that for sure.
It is, it's 4 by 8, something like that. So it meets the requirements. It's 16 square feet, right?
So it doesn't, it has to be.
No, for signs to be talked about, anything less than that doesn't, like an election sign or those small signs are different, right? Anything that's 16 square feet or larger falls under this bylaw.
Okay. I didn't think you could put any signs in public property. But
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's.
I think that's what the bylaw, yeah, kind of says that also. So, I mean, I think they've done it in the past and no one's probably said nothing. So now we've had a complaint, so we're here dealing with it. So, I mean, you know, it's advertising the carousel, which is one of the heritage things and one of the attractions that we have here. So, I mean, I'd like to see us work with them and, you know, leave the sign where it is for right now. And because, you know, the other thing is they got fair coming up, so they'll want to be advertising for the Rose Heath Fair. And it's probably something that we could probably work with them to work this out.
Go ahead, Greg.
Through you, your worship. I don't think council here has a choice. There's a bylaw that states that signs that size are not allowed on public property. I will grant you the Rose Heath Fair is a really good organization and everything, but if we allow people to put signs up on public property, what stops somebody here tomorrow putting up one of those signs on Centerton on any of the town property and having a sign up there? It clearly states in the bylaw, they're not allowed on public property. Just because they did it for the last few years and nobody complained, there was a complaint from somebody in the north about the sign bylaw. And to me, Councillor Ainsworth, it's not exactly like the Rose Heath Fair doesn't have frontage on 45. They got 1,500 feet up 45 that they can put the sign on their property.
I just
And-
don't,
And if you, just one more thing before, if you look at the bottom of the bylaw there, and I'm going to remind council of this because I don't think council has the right to just waive somebody from a bylaw. If somebody comes in here and says there's a bylaw that says I have to have a leash for my dog and I want to come here to council and council to waive that, I don't think we have that. And if you look here, it talks about, let me just find it here. In the sign bylaw, it talks about the very bottom. Sorry, give me a second here. This screen jumps. Nothing in this bylaw shall be interpreted to exempt any person from complying with the requirements of this bylaw. There is no section in this bylaw that says that you can come to town council and ask for it to be waived. The letter that the Rose Heath Fair sent us saying that Daryl, our bylaw officer, informed them they either had to move it or come to council for permission is not true. The bylaw officer can't say that. That's not written anywhere. It's a bylaw that's been passed by town council. I'm sorry, you want to put the sign on public property, it's not allowed on public property.
Joan, you have a comment?
Well, I think we're in a bit of a pickle here because they stayed here. They've been doing it for the last 5 or 6 years. So, I mean,
But
for
nobody
them,
complained.
nobody complained, but that being said, I'd like to see where this sign could go because I think it's quite important for them to have the sign and, is it a thing that they could look at maybe moving it closer to the pillars? Where the sign, where the property line is for the fair outside of the track. Cause I'm just not sure where it could go, but I think we could, give them a little bit of grace to work for it, to get it moved somewhere. If that's the case.
Mary Catherine?
I think there's a couple things here. Because of their fence, they can't actually put it on their property and it be visible
I wondered
to
about that.
people driving down the road. So that's one issue. But I think we're getting into, putting information for the public. This is a major tourist attraction, those kinds of things. And they did purchase the one that they put against the wall of the ACC, and this kind of information certainly can go up on that. But I think people regret that choice of a sign because it is not visible. I'm wondering though, because we as a municipality, speaking of Centerton, there is one there. And that's ours. It doesn't even sound like we can do it. I don't know whether it's different, but if no one can do it, no one can do it. It's an interesting question. Because I think we do want to support this. This is a
Absolutely.
major tourist attraction. It's a major historical attraction. But as Councillor Booth says, we can't just say, well, we like you, so the rules are different for you. Those just aren't how the world operates. So
No,
it's open some other questions, I think.
yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
A couple of comments that were made. According to what I understand, the Roseneath Fair used to put this sign up near the barn. They have a driveway that goes into the barn off 45. They used to put it there, which there is no fence that would block it.
Okay.
So I don't see why it can't go back to where it was. And I'm just stating, there's nowhere in the bylaw that states that there's discretion for council to allow certain people off of it. It wouldn't stop anybody from coming here next week to say, I want to put a sign up on township property advertising something. And the Roseneath Fair is advertising right now on the LED sign at ACC, and I have no issue with that at all. The LED sign can have them, they can advertise that. Just if they want to put the big 16-foot sign up, put it on your property then. And they do have it on their property, right, on private property, I think by the Baltimore Garden Center, there's one, and there's one somewhere else, and it's on private property. That's fine with me, but it can't go on public property.
Mary Catherine?
Just curious whether Councillor Booth would like to put our little mobile sign that we move all over and stick up elsewhere. Whether it isn't near as beautiful as theirs, but anyway,
Not
You know,
a
that-
mobile sign they're using, isn't
it is a mobile sign, but we have at one or two, there used to
Two.
be two, and we'll stick, the township, I mean, by we, has stuck it in front of Vernonville, has one right now in Centerton. So
one at the recreational ball or the Senator Ball?
the Centennial Field there, yeah.
I think, does that apply for a township as well?
I don't see in the bylaw where it's exempt, but typically townships would be
Yeah.
exempt from the bylaw.
Yeah, I would think it's exempt. Well, I'm gonna give my 2 cents. I think Roseneath is, Agricultural Society is a big boost for the township, and it's a big boost for the village of Roseneath. And we have to help them in whatever way we can, but we can't disobey the bylaws just for that. So I'm suggesting that we help them put up a big sign that raises it above the fence. And then anybody could see it, because that's what the problem is, isn't it? On their property, the fence stands in too much. So I would think if we could do something like that, then we'd be helping Roseneath and helping the township.
Mhm.
And I don't know whether, go ahead, Greg.
So I can agree with your comment there, but are you saying the township's going to pay for this sign?
Didn't say that.
Well, how do you mean we're going to help them then? Because if it's their private property and they want to put up a sign, go get a permit like anybody else and put a sign up, I'm all for that. But if you're implying that the taxpayer should be spending any money so that the Roseneath Fair, that we put the sign up for them, I'm completely against that.
Mayor Catherine?
I hesitate to go here because we're back to this circle. We always go about bylaw. But how many other signs are not complying in around here? And you look at the date of this was 2008. I remember this being a very hot issue at that point. Got people to calm down and reduced the amount of signs. But I don't think we've been looking at this until this resident complained on this case. So anyway, that we're not being consistent in enforcing it. I don't know where that leaves us. As you smile.
I
on
wonder
the
if the
STR
president
thing.
contributed. You don't want the township to contribute. Would he contribute to the? Or she? Go ahead, Mike.
I wonder if we should go back to them and see about if they can move that sign back by the barn. And see if there's enough room there, they can get the same, amount of people seeing it coming from both ways. Maybe it's just an oversight. I know they can't put it along the 45 and the fence because they're probably within the 35 feet, probably.
Well, they
comes
can't
up,
put it
so-
on 45 because it'll be.
So, I mean, it's either the barn or where it is or build something higher.
Yep.
if
I
we
think it
wanna-
is. Give it to 'em.
I'll let it go. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think we can tell them where to put the sign. I think our only authority is it can't be there. And it's been there since the complaint of May 17th. So this has taken like 4 or 5 weeks. The sign's been there. It's not supposed to. The person that has complained is obviously probably not too happy that the wheel seems to run very slow in the township, that somebody can put a sign up and it's still up 4 or 5 weeks later. I think we just tell them, I'm sorry, the sign bylaw states it's not allowed on public property. We can ask them, move it to your property, and I'm sure Barb Foreman and them know that they've had the sign by the barn before where there's a driveway there. I believe there's actually 2 driveways there, isn't there? One by the barn and one just north. I could be wrong.
Mayor Catherine?
We're into bylaw enforcement, Counselor Booth.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that there's a bylaw there, and we've talked about it as council that we want to start enforcing bylaws. We want to make sure that the rules are being followed. And now here we are saying they're a good,
That same level to other complainants, and we had people here tonight telling us the same thing and that they're not getting responses. So we've got to be consistent in what we do. It has to be consistent.
and all I'm saying is nowhere in there does it state that we have the right to change the bylaw. So we are totally out of order if we even try and vote on something to say that they're exempt. Because it says right there in 4.4, nobody's exempt from this. That's the way it is.
Mayor Catherine?
We do have the authority
Oh,
to.
oh, You've talked to
Sorry.
me, through me.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Logan. We do have the authority to change a bylaw.
Absolutely.
That's what we can do here. I mean, we could introduce a new process. We could have a discussion about a sign up there. There's lots of options we can do, but
You can change it. Go ahead and start the process to change it. But in that time, I'm
You've talked
asking,
Through me.
sorry, your worship, you can change it and do all that you want. That's fine. But in that timeline, that sign is illegal right now and should be moved. That's all I'm saying. And it's a good group. I agree. Roseneath Fair's been around forever and it's all a good group, but guess what? There's rules to be followed by everybody. And if we break this, nobody complained before. A resident has come and complained. If we say we disagree with it, then what's the use of having bylaws if we don't enforce them? And this is a pretty simple one.
I think
Amen.
we're getting argued. I haven't heard one person say that.
Well, then let's make a motion to tell them to move it.
Well,
Well, I just have a couple of thoughts, if I may, through your Mayor Logo.
Shoot.
As a courtesy, because this seems to be, somebody has a bee in their bonnet about this. The people have been using this location for 5 or 6 years. I kind of wonder why it has taken 6 years for somebody to come up with this. As a courtesy, I would like to give them a bit of time to find a different location. And in the meantime, I would like to look at some way of changing this bylaw that would incorporate this change for charity events, which is what this is a charity event. So that's what I would like to do. And I guess I would have to do that, Madam CAO, through a notice of motion. Thank you. And I have some homework to do. I'll do that for next week. Okay, thank you. So I guess it boils down to giving them a courtesy to leave the sign there while they investigate where they could put it.
I would suggest something along that line. Mike had a pretty good idea I think, too, but I think it should be go through staff. Staff contact them and see if there's another place that they would consider putting it
Mhm.
and see if they do have some place. And because it's against our bylaws and we have to support the bylaw, at the same time, we want to do the best that we can for that group. And if you want to do a bylaw changes and after that.
I'll do a notice of motion next Tuesday.
Can we go ahead and talk to them in the meantime?
Yeah, so you can
Two
ask
separate
them to
issues.
remove the sign. I
It's
think,
through staff.
yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think the deputy mayor's point is to give them a time frame,
Yes.
but it can't be open-ended, otherwise it'll be there the
Absolutely.
whole
Yeah.
season. So like if council,
What's a reasonable time? Couple of weeks or 3 weeks?
Councillor Lucas.
All right.
So through your worship to deputy mayor, what do you think is a reasonable timeline? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
2 weeks.
How about 5 weeks? That's the time they've had notice since they were served from the town.
But that-
5 weeks, they've been told by the bylaw officer that they have to move it.
Oh.
Don't tell me that the Roseneath Fair hasn't sat there and thought about their options to say, if they have a council meeting and they tell us to move it, we have to move it.
Okay, well,
We
I-
gave them, they've had 5 whole weeks to decide what they're going to do with this sign. Move the sign. It can't go on our property.
So then I would suggest 2 weeks.
Well, I don't agree with that. And
I make a motion, give them 2 weeks to move the sign.
Go ahead, Pat.
So we already have a motion on the floor.
Yes.
And
What's
it's,
that?
well, it's to receive the
bring it.
correspondence from the Roseneath Agricultural Society dated May 23rd regarding a sign advertising the carousel season. And
Okay.
further that council direction is required. So you want it removed. And so you're the mover and the seconder, is there a time frame, like, do they want to incorporate it into that motion? Or are they doing an amendment?
Who made the motion?
Councillor Ainsworth and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover.
Okay. You can understand that, Mike?
Yeah, but then it'll go to her if she's gonna make another motion.
Well, no, gonna do a bylaw through you, Mayor Local.
Yes.
I will bring a motion to change the bylaw next week, but right now it appears that we're dealing with this and my recommendation would be to allow them 2 weeks to look for another location for the sign.
Mike, that's a friendly motion? You will
Yeah,
accept
that's a
that?
friendly motion.
point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I believe that motion is illegal. It doesn't state anywhere in the bylaw that allows us to change that and give them any grace. So I think if that motion is out of order.
Well, then,
You have a bylaw before you that does not address the sign to be there, so
Yes.
it needs to be removed. I would say Councillor Booth is correct.
well, far be it from me to be in breach. But I do know that people in the municipality have been granted not signs, but have had to move trailers. And I believe they were given 3 weeks, but I'll leave it up to the staff to deal with it. And I will bring a notice of motion on Tuesday to the possibility of changing the bylaw to incorporate charities. Thank you.
Mike?
Through you, Mayor Lobo. So I just, just let staff deal with it,
Mhm.
get them to move
Yep.
it.
That's what I just said.
So what does that mean?
Just
Let
without
staff
council.
deal with it.
I'll contact them tomorrow and ask them to remove it. Tell them they're in contravention of the bylaw.
That's all I'm asking.
And you'll suggest that they put it some other place, that they've done another place?
I may mention that it's been brought to our attention that it's
Yeah.
been at another location, so.
I think that's probably the best thing to do. And Mary Catherine, do you have a comment?
Through you, Mayor Logal, to Councillor Booth, I hope you have this level of passion on enforcing the other bylaws, because there's certainly people who want to see their bylaws enforced.
And guess what? I will, and if there's a bylaw written, you know me by now, I'm the follower of the rules. I don't like it when people come here and they ask for exceptions or, I'm a charity or this or that or whatever it is. If deputy mayor wants to make a change to it, then fine, make a change to it. Just make sure, one thing I can give you a caveat is make sure that when you're talking about charitable organizations, that the Roseneath Fair and the Carousel and them are all charitable organizations registered,
Right.
or
thank
they
you.
won't fall under that.
Thank you, Councillor Booth.
Thank
I'll
you.
do
Anything
my-
to help you in your quest.
Okay.
I'll do my, through your Mayor Logal, to Councillor Booth, I'll do my due diligence. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, you got a final comment?
Yeah, through your Mayor Logo. So there's a couple other signs out there that are on the fence that are kind of outdated. Can we look at them in the same place? So like there's one for Club 39 that doesn't exist anymore. And is the Roseneath Women Institution, is that still part of it there?
I don't know. Go ahead.
So are those signs derelict or are those signs just because those organizations no longer exist?
Yeah, I'm just wondering because that was brought to my attention too.
Okay, so we can look into that.
Okay,
Are you, through your Mayor Logo, is it a complaint you're wanting to lodge or just
No.
have derelict signs removed?
Just derelict signs.
Thanks.
Update it.
okay. I think this discussion is done.
Yeah.
We have a mover and a seconder. All in favor?
Can I ask what the motion was before we vote on it? Since we've talked about it so much, what are we moving?
So the motion is to receive the correspondence from the Roseneath Agricultural Society dated May 23rd regarding the sign advertising the carousel season, and further that council give direction to staff to have the sign removed as it's in contravention of our bylaw.
Yes.
So that's been moved
And seconded.
and seconded. All in favor? Opposed?
Were you opposed?
Yeah, I don't think I don't oppose it. Okay, we're done that one. The next one is correspondence from Larry Spira. Spira, okay. Manager of the Water Capital Project, Lucy, regarding Grafton Water System 2023 Operations Report from March and April 2023. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of Allen Calderwood receive and file the report from Larry, Manager of Water Capital Projects, Lucy, regarding the Grafton Drinking Water System 2023 Operations Report period March till April 2023. Can I get a mover and a second for the report? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Booth. Questions or comments? Go ahead.
It's just a kind of a note, but I would prefer to see water issues coming earlier in the agenda, because it really matters, as you say, it's the one we can go to jail for, and poor Mary Catherine's getting sleepy, so if we could get it earlier in the agenda in future, that would be appreciated.
I have a couple questions, Pat. There was a pump, a fire pump that was down. Has it been repaired?
Yes, it has. And just for council's information, the fire chief and I are meeting with Lucy on Thursday to go over the issues regarding the fire pump, and also because the pump went down. Whenever you lose pressure on a water system, you have to do a boil water advisory. That area though was just contained between the MRF and the fire hall. It was not dealing with any other of the residents. So if there were to have a boil water advisory, then all of the ratepayers would be notified if they're affected. So,
And is the water board notified as well?
yeah, they would,
Should
like,
be.
as soon as we have a loss in pressure, then we have to contact the Ministry of Environment and also the local health unit. And then they tell us whether or not a boil water advisory is required.
Yeah.
Actually, they talk to Lucy, but Lucy confers with the township, and then notices would be hand delivered.
Yeah, and what about the water board? Are they informed as well?
They haven't in the past.
I think they should be.
We could,
In my opinion, I think they should, and probably council too, because,
well, I would definitely notify council.
yeah. Go ahead.
To your Mayor Lobo, at the water committee, the last one, this did come up and we did query that, so it would be, I think it'd be a good idea that we get we get notified with this, because it was only one, as you say, one small section of boiled water, and I'm thinking, I didn't know about it, but I wasn't in that section, so
That's right. Yeah.
that would be a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Mary Catherine.
Through you, Mayor Local, is that the bulk water there, or is that yet another system? Like, does our fire have any access to water at the moment?
So there is, it's back online.
Okay,
And there is the fire pump, and then there is the bulk water. So I'll know more after Thursday,
okay.
because I don't know your system as well as
Yeah,
should.
I guess I guess I better not say that because I'm not exactly sure, but I would think you could still get bulk water. If it was a problem with one line. Because the rest of the lines were all fine and the bulk water probably comes out with the rest of all those lines, but I better not say that.
That's a good point.
I'll ask.
And I have one other question, Pat, and I'm not too familiar with the procedures for Lucy, but would they have to issue an RFQ for the acoustic leak detection?
Typically they get quotes for us, and then they provide us with the information.
Okay.
So.
Because they should.
Yep.
Okay, we got movers second?
Yes, you just need
Okay.
to call the vote.
Any further discussion on the water report? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have correspondence. We've got a bunch of them from AMO Communications, dated May 11th, May 18th, May 25th, June 1st, and June 8th. We have AMO Communications dated May 25th, 2023, regarding the AMO policy update. We have the Halliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge District Health Unit Board of Health regarding the HKPR campaign brief for May and the HKPR meeting summary. We have the County of Northumberland regarding notice of public meeting for subdivision plan between County Road 2 and Old Danforth Road in Grafton. We have the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, Roma, dated May 18th, 2023, regarding the Roma intervenes in rail dispute. We have the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, Roma, dated May 25th, 2023, regarding the Roma Board May highlights. We have a notification from Jeff Gibbons, resident, regarding a short-term rental bylaw, and Eastern Ontario Warden Caucus regarding the 2023 strategic priority handout. And the resolution reads: be resolved the following correspondence we received and filed. The AMO Communications from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dates. HKPR report Board of Health, the County of Northumberland regarding the notice of public meeting for subdivision plan in Grafton, Rural Ontario Municipal Association regarding the Roma intervenes in rail dispute, the Roma Municipal Association highlights for May, and the Jeff Gibbons regarding short-term rental bylaw, and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus regarding the 2023 strategic handout. And the resolution reads that received and filed. And could I have a mover in a second to do that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. No, I'm sorry, Councillor O'Neill. A bit dry. Further discussion?
Through your Mayor Logo, I have it on page 279. And it has to do with the LAS lighting incentives. Madam CAO, are you aware of this? This one?
I'm sorry.
279. Of the let me get up here to the right thing. June 1st AMO watch file, and it's on the bottom of the second page of that. And it's for LED upgrades at your municipal facilities.
So I believe the township undertook LED lighting changes a few years ago and took advantage of that, but I can follow up with Public Works.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's actually been more recent than that. I think the ACC has been done
They're
even
getting
last year,
something.
was it?
I remember talking about that.
You talked about that and the arena had it done 2 or 3 years ago. And I expect well, I know that the street there on Aird Street, they're putting in LED lights on there. I'm not sure if they apply for it, but the other ones I believe we have. Mayor Catholic?
Through you, Mayor Logo, to our CAO. Jennifer Steen has made some applications for the ACC. It didn't cover all the lights, so I'm just wondering if we could just draw her attention to this to see if it fits what she's already doing.
So if you recall, council gave me direction in the spring to file a grant application, and part of that was to replace the lighting. We have not heard back yet on that facility, whether or not we were successful or not, but I will make Jennifer aware of this and also follow up to see where we are in the process.
Yeah, there was some discussion of the lighting that wasn't included in that application, that we do it in the future. So this might be a very, very quick future for us.
Further discussion? Any other items you want to bring up? All in favor?
Oh, sorry, I do have something to bring up.
Motion carried?
Yeah, motion carried. Mayor Logo?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm falling asleep. The health unit, I just found it of interest. You had shared with us the booklet about the impacts of climate change that's happening. And I just thought, for the benefit of the public, that they be aware that this is something that the health unit is very concerned about, and that the mayor has brought back from it and shared with us. So,
Thank you. It was a pretty good report, wasn't it?
yeah, it is. And it shows how it weaves into every single aspect of our lives.
Okay, we're gonna move on to bylaws. Bylaw number 72023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 63, 2023 to appoint members to all boards and committees for the Township of Allen-McCullough for the term 2022 to 2026. Be resolved that bylaw number 72023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 63, 2023 to appoint members of all boards and committees for the Township of Allen-McCullough for the term of 2022 to 2026 be read and deemed to be passed this 20th day of June 2023. Can I get a mover in a second for that? Moved by Councillor Ainsworth and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? Motion's carried. Bylaw number 71, 2023, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 124, 2022 to appoint a committee of adjustment in the Township of Allen-McCullough for the year 2022 to 2023 for the Municipal Council of the Township of Allen-McCullough. The resolution is be resolved that bylaw number 71, 2023, being a bylaw to amend number 124, 2022 to appoint a committee of adjustments in the Township of Allen-McCullough for the year two thousand and twenty-two to two thousand and twenty-three for the municipal council of the township of Allen-McCullough be read and deemed to be passed this 20th day, June two thousand and twenty-three. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor O'Neill and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? Go ahead, Mayor Catherine.
This is just because of the change in your job title.
Yes, so because Jennifer has left us, we need a secretary treasurer to the land division committee and committee of adjustment. So in the interim, I'll be the secretary treasurer and Alex will be the assistant or deputy secretary treasurer. And then that way we have signing authority, because if people's severances come forward, we don't have the ability to sign them with the bylaw. So, and then
Okay.
once you get a full-time planner, will replace me.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or discussions? All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, for a few minutes. Notices of motions, I'll start them off. Just for everybody's information. There was a meeting tonight that was being held in Port Hope. Unfortunately, nobody could attend, but it was to do with the municipal MZOs.
Oh.
The town of Port Hope and the city of Ajax, and I believe it was Oshawa too, one other setter up there. Have received MZOs, and there was a public meeting tonight in Port Hope to discuss how they can work around those and try and fight the province on those. So unfortunately, we were unable to attend, members of council, but had we not been tied up here, I'm sure we would have been there. There's also a meeting tomorrow night in Port Hope at the Port Hope High School regarding the opioid crisis. And the speakers include Dr. Brocking, the Port Hope Police Chief, and one other person, and I'm not sure, it could be the mayor of Port Hope, but at least the three of them will be there, and it's from 6 till 8 p.m. I think it'll be interesting. And I'm probably going to try and attend myself. And something, and I don't know if I need a notice of motion or not, but it's regarding extreme weather. Which we seem to be getting more and more of. And we didn't, but maybe we should have looked at relief for when the smoke was in Ontario. And that was affecting a lot of people, and another example would be the hot weather that it's probably coming, and if we could have some cooling stations rather than warming stations, but some of our facilities might be able to help some people that don't have air conditioning and are suffering. So something that staff could maybe take a look at, and I don't know if we've come up with a policy says that maybe after so many days of hot heat that we do something about it. Something for you to consider. So would you like that as a notice of motion, or is that sufficient?
It may even be in our emergency plan. I'll have to look and see.
Okay,
So I'll look into it and get back to council.
Okay. And the next one that we're going to probably be under is the short-term bylaw. And last week or 2 weeks ago now, I did put out or suggested that we look more diligently at the STRs, and if I can find that here, I probably should read that out, shouldn't I? Thank you. So last week I put out a notice of motion regarding the short-term rental. And the notice of motion reads as follows: that the CAO and staff, with the assistance of the ad hoc committee chair, Councillor Mike Ainsworth, and Deputy Mayor Joan Stover, as required, assist as required, prepare a report with recommendations for the June 27th, 2023 planning meeting that addresses bylaw number 89-2022 for short-term rental licensing, and bylaw number 70-2022 for zoning to rescind, maintain, or modify that bylaw, as well as that service fees for short-term rental owners or call outs attended by bylaw enforcement be established for nuisance issues such as parking, noise, waste and recycle, animal fireworks, and using existing bylaws to take effect upon council approval. And that the CAO and staff, with the assistance of the ad hoc committee chair, Mike Ainsworth, and Deputy Mayor Joan Stover, as required, prepare a report that recommends for the September 19th, 2023 meeting, regular council, with a plan to license all short-term rentals starting January 1st, 2024, and be fully in operation by May 1st, 2024. Programs to include rates for licensing of owners present versus non-present, and inspections. Also include demerit points and scoring to points where license revoke and heavy fines are in place. That was signed by me, dated June the 6th, 2023. So that's open for discussion. Mike?
Through you, Mayor Lobo, so I'm wondering if we can leave this with staff and Joan and I, instead of it being a motion.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, I think we want staff to come back with some stuff for short-term rentals here in the near future.
Yes,
And would that take care of this motion here?
go ahead.
I would say that motion would give staff direction and then we'll bring it back a report to council.
Okay.
Mary Catherine?
I would like to see a much more open-ended direction to staff. We have a new person in CAO. We have some changes in staff elsewhere. I feel like our CAO needs to have enough space to say, how do we make a plan that brings together all of the pieces here? And there are a lot of moving pieces here, and I think we've spent a tremendous amount of time arguing about that bylaw piece, but there's so many related pieces in terms of the bed and breakfasts, those types of things. Where do they fit into these things? But to make any plan work, it has to start with what staff do we have and what staff do we need? Because it doesn't matter what our bylaw is, if we don't have the staff to do the licensing, if we don't have a structure for implementing the bylaw. And I think we've got a new CAO. I would like to see a very open-ended request to say, where are we going with this? And that to include what staffing would be needed. Because I think it doesn't matter if we get off, we have spent so much time and energy on this one piece that isn't going to solve this in any way. On its own, just on its own, it can't solve anything. It can be a piece of solving things, but not on its own.
Go ahead.
Through your Mayor Logo to Madam CAO. I understand that one of the intricacies of this issue is the zoning bylaw. So as it stands now, we're pretty much in a standstill position. Would that be correct? Until the zoning is changed?
Yes, through you, Mayor Logo. Yes, so in order for the zoning bylaw to be changed, the township would have to have a public meeting. So we'd have to advertise 20 days in advance. We'd have to have a public meeting. After the public meeting, council would have to make a vote, and then you'd have to have 20 days for an appeal period. So it's not a quick fix to change zoning bylaws.
That's right. And so through you, Mayor Logal, to Madam CAO, I would suggest sending this back to your office and having you expedite it the best way you can so that we can start looking at the zoning bylaw, because the SDR bylaw cannot be changed until the zoning bylaw is been changed to affect the STRs?
So your bylaw, your zoning bylaw dictates where the STRs can happen. So unless you change that, right now it's only in commercial zones for any new STRs. So if council has the desire to have it in other areas, then you're right, your zoning bylaw would have to be changed.
First.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
And then the other point I'd like to make is there's no way we would be able to get this back to your planning meeting next week.
I understand that.
Okay,
You know, that was prior to some more staff leaving, so I know that that's probably affects it a lot. However, there is a bit of an urgency to do as fast as we can, and I understand what you're saying, Mary Catherine. That we gotta do it right, but unless we do something, we'll never get it perfectly right. And if it means, you know, if it means another couple of weeks that you need to do that, to get your staff comfortable and at the same time, I think you could probably. I think the ad hoc committee was recommending that we open it up to more than just, certainly just in develop, is it development?
commercial.
Commercial. And so that's gonna change. I'm sure that that's gonna change, and I'm hoping it'll be much more than that. But that's only my opinion, but I think I'm happy I put this notice of vote note because I think it's gonna force people to get on and get moving. Otherwise, we're just gonna be playing with this and playing with this and playing with this.
So just to clarify then, Mayor Logo, to Madam CAO, first steps would be to look at the zoning bylaw, and once that has changed, then we can swing into the bylaw itself for the STRs.
I would suggest that we do it at the same time. Only
Okay.
Yeah.
because once you get the zoning bylaw prepared, I think you'd want to be moving forward with your licensing bylaw if that's what council chooses.
Okay,
And I will say, I do have a great team that will be able to work on it and get it back to council as soon as we possibly can, but we need to take everything into consideration.
thank you. I like your direction, and I knew you would have the direction we needed. Thank you.
Further discussion?
So do
Mike,
we,
go ahead.
oh, I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
through
do
Mayor
we have
Lowe.
a date for it to come back?
I would suggest we would have it back by the second meeting in July, which I think is the 18th, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. Mike?
You know, I'm just gonna reiterate that the amount of information that we've had on both sides of this here, you know, for enforcement. And for short-term rental licensing and inspections and stuff. You know, I kind of wonder if we need to go back to like just like a soft start to this thing here and you know. I think enforcement is the biggest part of the bylaw. I mean, you know, again, we wouldn't be here today if we'd had this 2 years ago. So I'm not so sure that you know, too much of the wording of the existing bylaw, but I mean, it's have a soft start. Let's get some history on it going forward and make adjustments as we go along.
I think we'll be doing.
Yeah.
Carrying on to what more what Mike is saying, can we target some of the historically bad ones that have.
People who are contravening the bylaw?
Yes,
Yes.
and I'm talking about the nuisance ones, the ones that really get people perturbed.
Yes.
We could do something. with those.
Yep.
I think that would be wise to do. We could do that. Further discussion? You need a motion?
So I would need a motion, just, I would suggest rather than it just that staff bring back a report on the short-term rental bylaw and that if we can target the date of July the 18th.
Okay. And that would include both of the bylaw regarding zoning as well as.
Licensing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Through your Mayor Logo. So I wonder also too, if we can look at mechanisms to find these. How many short-term rentals that we have. So we only know we only have 51. But is there mechanisms out there that maybe staff could look into to try to find where the other so-called 200 are? And if that could be, I mean, it's hit and miss on Airbnb when you go and you punch in certain criteria and you get 500, you punch something else and you get 150. But is there anything out there that has been that can go in and search those sites to find out where they are in our municipality?
Yeah, so Yolanda did a great job last year of tracking down, but we are aware that there is some other programs out there that we can look into and bring back as part of the report to council that there may be ways to track them down more efficiently than what we did in the past.
And at the same time, I think Councillor Booth mentioned it recently that, there was some perception that the last council did this halfway through the night and looked at it for 5 minutes and made a decision. There was an awful lot of staff time that went into that. And we've seen what Yolanda has done in the past 6 months trying to find all this stuff. So if we have to do, and we do a lot of what you're suggesting, that's going to take a lot of time. And I guess I'm just suggesting that we should concentrate first on these, what we got need for the 18th. That's what they can use. And then perhaps we'll have time to do that investigating.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah, it sounds like there might be some program there that makes it a lot quicker to find them.
Okay, Mary Gotham?
Again, I think I'm gonna go back to my governance and management. It's staff's job to figure out how to manage this issue. We've clearly said we want to have some mechanisms to deal with problem STR locations. I think that's still true. And we need to then balance that with other things like the bed and breakfasts that are operating and those types of things. How does this fit together? So I think we've given our job as governance, and now it's their job as management to figure out how to make that work.
Okay. Did we get a motion?
Nope. I'll make the motion that we direct staff to bring a report back on July 18th to look at how we can address our concerns and the concerns raised through the committee.
Hey, can I add a little bit to that we put some emphasis on the repeaters, that we investigate them more closely?
Sorry, pardon?
The ones who were saying the nuisance.
The
ones.
problematic
Yeah,
locations.
The ones
we
that are in
take a look at
contravention.
them.
Yes, problematic
Yeah,
locations.
can I get a seconder for that? Councilor Ainsworth? Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have Deputy Mayor Joan Stover.
I don't have a lot to offer. I'm sure I'm gonna think of something as soon as we leave, but I just looking forward to the Canada Day parade celebrations. I'd like to thank Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Ainsworth for gearing this up with staff, and thank staff as well. So I do hear
You better include Debbie McBride and Diane Tolan as well.
and volunteers that will catch them. So I'd like to thank you all. I know there's a lot of excitement for it and a lot of people talking about it. So thanks again. And I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Mike.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Logo. So we did a tour with the Lower Trent Conservation last Thursday. And just for staff and council here and the public, if they haven't ever gone and looked at the different sites that Lower Trent Conservation has got for their conservation areas, the Lookout Tower down in Frankfurt, and that I can't actually remember the name of the boulder, but it's like this gigantic boulder. It's 1 million tons, and it sits in the middle of nowhere in this little part of their yeah. and like the next biggest rock to it's like a pebble. So it's like a mystery. But it weighs, like I say, it weighs 1,000,000 tons and it's something to go and see. And it's off the Frankfurt, going into Frankfurt on I'm not sure what county road that is, but just follow the signs. So a good opportunity there and out in
Just as a quick comment before I forget.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Not Lower Trent, but Ganaraska used to invite council members from the different ones on tours like that, so. If you guys ever thought of doing that, I think it'd be a great idea and we'd probably get some
Yeah.
participants there.
I'll mention that next time.
Okay,
Right on.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, but yeah, get out. They got about 4 or 5 different sites there and it took a good day to go do it. And but good tour, much like what we had. And I also want to just touch on the Canada Day Parade and how it's coming along and I think we're sitting with about 12 different floats. We've got a marching band, we've got some musicians, a magician at the arena. We've got different tables set up there for DocuPet, and I think our township's going to put something in there. We've got the Heritage Group coming in, and if I miss any, Mary Catherine can pick them up. But you know, we got the Last and Ladle has donated the hot dogs and hamburgers and condiments between them and St. Anne's Spa, so that's a great help there. And you know, we get the fire department coming in doing a display. You know, we get some public works vehicles coming in, and so it should turn out to be a real good day. So I hope everybody gets out and enjoys it and gets things decorated up.
Thank you, Mike.
Looking forward to it.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Mary Catherine?
Also excited about Canada Day. It's
Yeah.
really coming together really well. And I would just add, there were numerous other sponsors who've
Yeah.
come in. So it looks like we're going to come very close to that being a revenue neutral event for us. And we're still going to have all sorts of free activities. So thank you to the sponsors. And my other one, I'm wondering, Mayor Lowell, if perhaps you or all of us could send a card of thanks to the Horticulture Society. Their display urns of flowers out front are beautiful and are making Grafton look great. So I think we should send them a thank you card.
I did send no, I haven't one finished. I did send them an email, the first one out, because they are beautiful.
Yeah.
But I do like your idea much better, and I'd be happy to sign a card if you happen to have an extra. Anything else?
No, that's it tonight.
Since you're the last one to talk about.
No,
No,
Great.
about the parade and all of that type stuff. I just hope you arrange to make sure that there's weather is perfect. And there's no
You
rain.
are gonna stand way up high with a big umbrella that covers all of Grafton.
If you
That's our
need-
plan.
Need a umbrella or something like that. I think they're not an umbrella, but a
Sunshade.
cover. Yeah, have you got one?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I might have one that you could use if you need. Okay, Councilor Booth,
Nothing at this time, your worship.
okay. Okay, we'll go into approval of the confirming bylaw number 73, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council session held on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. Be resolved that bylaw number 73, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular session of council held on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, be read and deemed passed this 20th day of June, 2023. If I can move in a seconder. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. And adjournment bylaw, be resolved the regular session of council of Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, be adjourned at 8:17 PM. All in favor? Oh,
I need to move in a second.
We're all hoping.
Good try.
Councillor Ainsworth and Councillor Booth, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.